politicians. I went into politics simply because I felt that too many of us who are technocrats or professionals are shying away from politics, and we've left the stage to professional politicians who have not delivered governance at the level at which it can make our lives better and give us 3 square meals, give us jobs, good healthcare, good educational systems. Instead, politics has become just a game, a parlor game for politicians, by politicians, for politicians. So it doesn't work. And so I also entered politics because I saw, as a technocrat, that the country cannot move forward except it has competent political leadership. You cannot bring an incompetent man and say, oh, well, he will appoint, if he appoints 1 or 2 smart people, everything will start moving. It doesn't work like that. No country can make progress beyond the competence or incompetence of its ultimate political leadership. And so I think there's a need to elevate of political competition, which brings us to the matter of ideas and policies.
Including, you might want to add the issue of money. That's
yes, and of course, taking
a center stage.
That's right. Well, money is a different thing, because I like, the point about complex systems, because money playing a role comes because of poverty. People are very poor, but it also comes because of the absence of voter education, which is the basis of democracy, that citizens should be informed. They should make informed choices, but we don't have that in Nigeria. And this
but can you make informed choices? And I want to ask this of all the panel. Can you make informed choices if, as you said, you start off by being poor?
Well, the two are related, but if you are educated, your poverty, you can navigate your poverty. You can actually weaponize it for your own benefit.
Well, the educated people, most of the educated people are the ones who've been monetizing.
No, see, the problem is that INEC is not prioritizing voter education. No, we don't see that. As when we see INEC, we see registration, we see PVC, we see all that, but we don't see educating people about what democracy is and how they should make their choices. Now, if you have that information, even though you are poor, listen, I worked for the United Nations for 17 years. I conducted and supervised elections in other countries, in Croatia, in Cambodia. I saw people who were poor. They were not selling their vote. We make this excuse in Nigeria, and it's too easy and too simple. Nigerians are not selling their votes because they're poor. They're selling their votes because they're not educated as to why they should not. And they're selling their votes because our values have completely collapsed. This is not the only country where people are poor. We should ask ourselves whether what we are practicing in the first place is democracy, or whether we have elections every 4 years. There's a difference between the two. When you talk about democracy, you're talking about also democratic institutions, which include the judiciary, other institutions of government functioning as independent institutions. So that's a very important point. The other question that we should also ask ourselves, since we're rounding up, is democracy an end in itself, or is it a means to an end? Do you have a real democracy on an empty stomach? If you have democracy and people are so poor that they cannot feed, but you have maybe what you might call a military dictatorship, many of the countries of Asia were not built as democracies. Their economies were built by military dictators, but those dictators were visionary dictators. There's a difference between a visionary and benign dictatorship, and a dictatorship such as we've had in Africa that has tended to concentrate power in the hands of the military. Now, let's come back to General Babangida in closing. He was a very visionary president. Whatever you might disagree on some things, but he was visionary. He used a lot of intellectuals. He ruled with ideas and, elevated people who had ideas. What is our politics today? In our politics today, if you speak about ideas, they will say you're blowing grammar. That Bobo is just blowing grammar. So the quality of our democracy is going down, and we think we're practicing democracy. Look at the politicians. Yes, it is through the voter education process and through this matter of who are we as Nigerians. What is our worldview? What is our national philosophical foundation? We don't know who we are. We don't know where we have come from. We don't know where we are going. How can we come together in a democratic process if you have not addressed that basic question? And that comes back to the issue of leadership. Whoever has the responsibility today must be made to know that you must begin to lay this foundation and hand over the baton. We cannot wait forever until some messiah shows up. It doesn't work that way. So that's just my wrapping up comment about the need for a national identity and the matter of inclusion. The young lady Adora spoke about gender, but let us just 1 minute about zoning. Oh yes, how can we have a discussion like this and we haven't talked about zoning? When you see that it is breaking up political parties, parties have constitutions and their arguments as whether those constitutions have been followed. Nigeria is a plural society. And I think it was Dr. Babayo or another Kusaji who said that if every part of the country does not feel included, your democracy is not really achieving the purpose of nation building. Every country is different. Democracy is not just a game of numbers. In America, Hillary Clinton had 3 million votes more than Donald Trump, and Trump became the president. Why? Because it's an indirect democracy. You see? So we cannot have come with all these simplistic arguments. Oh, it's a game of numbers. No, you have a country that has a reality of 250 ethnic groups, several religions, and everybody should be made to feel included. So if you continue to exclude some parts of the country or some identities in the country, you will have a problem. You can deceive yourself any way you like. In the next constitution, in the next government, this matter of zoning has to be fairly, squarely confronted. Do you want to include rotations in the constitution? That's a question that is an open question, but it has to be faced. I want to make an important clarification. Everybody here knows that I have offered myself in the past and was a presidential candidate in the 2019 election. And even in the 2023 cycle, I also offered myself in the context of my political party, but did not get the ticket for reasons that my resignation letter from the political party stated very clearly, and which was what Dr. Babayo was referring to. And the reality is that many political parties, especially the smaller ones, that many of us had thought would be effective counterweights to the APC and the PDP, because we were not happy with what people saw as political corruption in APC and PDP, and so we decided to try alternative vehicles. I can tell you flat out that many of these parties are worse than the big parties we complain about. Let me explain. They are worse because Henry Kissinger once said that the reason that the politics of the academia is so vicious. Remember that Henry Kissinger was a professor at Harvard and then later became the National Security Advisor and Secretary of State of the United States. And so, reflecting on his time in academia, he said, the reason the politics of the academia is so vicious is precisely because the stakes are so small. Maybe people are fighting to death about who will become the head of department. Maybe people are fighting to death about who will control some research grant. Right? So extrapolate this to the national political situation and you will get what I'm saying. Many of these parties, not all, I'm not saying all, but many, they're not even serious about winning elections. Certainly not the presidential election. The reason some of them exist is simply to become trading platforms, either aligning with the big parties or taking money from candidates, but they're not serious about fielding competitive candidates for elections. They're just looking, yes, they're either surrogates or party officials are looking for who will bring money to them in order to get the ticket, and if you don't, they can bypass you and pick people that other people can objectively look at and say, was this really the best choice? Do you understand what I'm saying? So this is the point that I was trying to make concerning that particular issue about our democracy. Many of our political parties are not serious. They're not in this to win. It's a trading, it's a hustle for them. And so then what makes them better than APC or PDP? We complain about APC and PDP. Yeah, 100 million naira form. It's a matter of scale. In some parties, the form may be 20 million or 15 million or 30, but the same issue is taking place. So, but that's by the way. Let me address the matter of zoning very briefly. And the reason I brought up my own experience is because I made it very clear that I'm not offering myself to be president of Nigeria based on where I come from. My politics was never ethnic. I was seeking to be president because of a vision that I have for this country. But that is not inconsistent with the matter of equity and social justice. I've finally landed. Now, this matter of equity and social justice, there was a study by Harvard University in 2002 called fractionalization. That study empirically proved that where there is a heterogeneous environment, the more heterogeneous it is, the more fractionalized the country is. And they showed by empirical study that Japan and the two Koreas are the two most homogeneous countries in the world. And that European countries were also highly homogeneous in their composition, but that African countries tended to be the most heterogeneous countries on earth. Empirically proved. And that is one of the reasons why in Africa there is a lot of division. And democracy can, if it is not very well managed, contribute to fractionalization. How do you solve that? You can develop a democracy that suits your own local environment. And that is where this zoning matter came up. You also have to look at the matter of constitutional restructuring, because the only way you manage a big, diverse federal state is through a federal system. And that's why you see America is federalism, Australia, Canada, Germany, Brazil, India, so many countries that are big and also have heterogeneous populations tend to be federal states. But in Nigeria, we are running away from the matter of constitutional restructuring. Then we're not serious. So that's why we must come back to that matter, and then we must come back to the matter of zoning. In the matter of constitutional restructuring, we can look at, it's a debate, we can look at, should the presidency, for example, rotate across the 6 geopolitical zones? Switzerland is a confederation. The presidency rotates every 2 years to every one of the 26 cantons in Switzerland. Are you more developed than Switzerland, that recognizes the fact that there are French Swiss, there are Italian Swiss, there are German Swiss, and then you have the Romance? So in Nigeria, we tend to, I don't believe in running away from issues. Let's solve the problem.
In other words,
for our own peculiar environment, we should look at, one, a return to proper federalism, because that is the only way we can also break the economic logjam we are facing in this country. Well, let's hope so. But the fact of the matter is, and why is this happening? It's because politics, vested interests, is what is running Nigeria's economy today. Nigeria's economy is not being run by sound economic principles or competence. No.